After a series of calamities, Tu Tien remained unfazed. She understood that she could only rely on herself to survive. With nowhere left to return to, and no one left to depend on, she had to be stronger than ever. Early in the morning, while the mist still covered the entire forest, Tu Tien quietly left her cave. Her bare feet stepped lightly on the layer of dry leaves, and her hands carefully brushed aside branches in search of food. Wild banana trees grew scattered throughout the forest. She selected one with unripe banana clusters, cut it down with a knife, and clutched it close. Bananas were not unfamiliar to her, but she had never imagined that one day she would have to depend on such simple fare to get by. Upon returning to her cave, Tu Tien began repairing her sleeping area. In recent days, her shelter had gradually fallen into disrepair. Heavy rains had left the cave floor damp, and water had seeped onto her bedding. She decided to reinforce it using bamboo and dried banana leaves. Carefully, she cut the bamboo into sections, slung them over her shoulder, and tied them tightly to form a frame. Her thin, calloused hands were covered with scratches, yet she pressed on. She knew that only relentless work could keep her alive. In the afternoon, when everything was nearly finished, Tu Tien sat down to rest. She silently gazed into the distance, where the sun was slowly sinking behind the treetops. Her heart felt a bit lighter, yet it was also filled with emptiness. There had been moments when she thought about turning back, but recalling all that she had endured made it clear she could not. After resting, Tu Tien slung her bamboo basket over her shoulder and followed the familiar trail into the forest to forage for bamboo shoots. Dense foliage blocked out much of the sunlight, but she was used to this rugged path. Arriving at the bamboo grove, she paused, observed her surroundings, and quickly found tender shoots emerging from the earth. Using a small knife, she carefully cut each cluster of shoots and neatly arranged them in her basket. Sweat beaded on her forehead, and her thin, calloused hands bore the marks of her labor, yet she persisted. She understood that only through unceasing effort could she continue to survive. She vowed to keep on living, no matter how hard it got, and she would never return to the place that had cast her aside. If no one was left to protect her, then she would protect herself. Tu Tien clenched her fists, her eyes resolute. From that moment on, she would no longer be the weak woman she once was. Returning to the tent beneath the stone cave, Tien fell silent when she heard the news that Mr. Tan, the man who had helped her, had been brutally attacked by Tien's gang. She could not believe that his simple kindness had become the reason for such a savage act of revenge. A surge of remorse welled up in her chest, leaving her unable to sit still. She knew that she had nothing to repay and could not stand up to protect Mr. Tan, but at the very least she could do something to show her gratitude. She decided to venture into the forest to gather bananas, bamboo shoots, and papayas to sell at the market, hoping to earn a little money to help him. Early the next morning, while the sky was still shrouded in mist, Tu Tien slung her bamboo basket over her shoulder and set off alone into the forest. The mountain path was rugged, and her bare feet tread quietly on a carpet of dry leaves. She quickly found a wild banana tree and carefully cut off a cluster of bananas with her small knife before placing it in her basket. Then she continued her search for tender bamboo shoots sprouting at the base of a bamboo plant, her nimble hands digging and collecting each young shoot. By noon, her basket was heavy and she began following a small stream, taking the opportunity to wash the bananas, bamboo shoots, and papayas before carrying them down to the market. Staring at her reflection on the water, she sighed. Her face was pale and her hair disheveled, yet her eyes remained determined. At the market, she quietly found a small corner by the roadside, spread out an old mat and arranged bundles of bamboo shoots and papayas before her. Passers-by took notice. Some recognized her as the woman who had been expelled from Tien's household, and murmurs of gossip followed. But Tu Tien paid them no mind. An elderly woman stopped by, picked up a bundle of bamboo shoots, and asked, "Child, why must you suffer so?" Tu Tien smiled gently and replied in a calm tone, "I just want to earn a little money to help someone who once helped me." The old woman nodded, purchased a few bundles of bamboo shoots, and quietly departed. In the afternoon, after selling some of her goods, Tu Tien sat quietly by the roadside, her hands clutching the hem of her worn-out shirt. She knew she could do little more, but at least she could not turn her back on the one who had once treated her kindly. As the evening breeze blew, stirring a thin layer of dust along the village road, Tu Tien understood that no matter how harsh life became, she could never allow herself to become ungrateful. After selling all the vegetables she had gathered, Tu Tien carefully counted the small amount of money in her hand. She knew it wasn't much, but it was enough to buy a modest gift to bring to Mr. Tan. Her heart still ached over what had happened. She couldn't find peace knowing that he had been beaten simply for helping her. She stopped by a small neighborhood convenience store, selected a few packs of crackers and some fruit, and neatly packed them into a small bag. Although she knew these items could never make up for what he had endured, at least she wanted to show him her gratitude. On her way to the clinic, she walked very slowly. As she reached the gate, she overheard a few neighbors talking. Poor Mr. Tan, who could be so heartless as to beat an old man like that? I heard it was because he helped someone, and now he's paying the price. Those words tightened Tu Tien's heart even further. If it hadn't been for her, perhaps he wouldn't have gotten into this mess. She stepped into the patient room and saw Mr. Tan lying in bed, his face drawn and pale. The moment he caught sight of her, his eyes widened in surprise. But before she could say a word, a woman, probably his wife, stepped forward, her voice filled with anger. "How dare you show your face here?" Tu Tien bowed her head, her voice trembling. "I just wanted to visit, Mr. Visit? If it weren't for you, he wouldn't be in this condition. Do you have any idea he nearly died?" Tu Tien was at a loss for words. She had prepared herself for being blamed, but when confronted with the fury of Mr. Tan's family, her heart ached even more. The woman glared at her with indignation. "What are you doing here now? Get out! Don't let him see you and suffer even more." Tu Tien gripped the gift bag tightly in her hand. She thought she might be able to do something to make up for it, but it turned out that her presence only made things worse. She placed the gift bag on a table and silently turned away. As she reached the door, she heard Mr. Tan's weak voice from behind. "Don't blame her. It's not her fault." But in the heat of anger, no one wanted to listen. Slowly, Tien left the clinic, feeling as though the whole world was turning its back on her. The evening breeze blew by, carrying a chill that seeped into her heart. She looked up at the grey sky and silently wondered, what should I do now? This time she truly did not know where to go. Tuan, the CEO of a major construction project, sat in his office, focused on reviewing project files. Outside, sunlight streamed through the glass window, reflecting off the elegant furniture and creating an atmosphere of authority. On his desk lay numerous design plans, contracts for acquiring landslide-damaged property, and important documents related to the ongoing project. His phone rang, breaking the quiet. On the other end was one of the lead engineers of the project. "Tuan, the road section we just finished is ready for inspection. Can you come to the construction site right away?" Without hesitation, he nodded, quickly organized the documents, grabbed the project plan and left the office. At the same time, his secretary Huang received a notification and prepared to join him at the site to assist with the inspection process. When Tuan's vehicle arrived, the team of engineers and workers was already gathered along the newly repaired road. The sections of land that had previously suffered from landslides had been reinforced with sturdy concrete, and on both sides a drainage system had been installed to help prevent erosion. He stepped out of the vehicle, put on his hard hat and approached the engineers standing by. One of them handed him a report on the construction process, detailing the safety and quality of the road. "The project has been completed on schedule. We have tested the road's compaction and its drainage capacity. However, to ensure long-term safety, an additional layer of reinforcement is needed in areas prone to erosion," the engineer explained. Tuan nodded, flipping through the design plans to verify each specification. Huang stood by his side, quickly jotting down the required adjustments. After personally inspecting the road, Tuan walked along the site, discussing the construction process with the workers and listening to feedback from the technical team. "You all did a great job. Once we finish the remaining work, we can hand over the project ahead of schedule," he said in a decisive tone. Looking at the newly completed road, Tuan felt a deep sense of satisfaction. This project not only improved the local infrastructure but also brought safety and convenience to the community. He understood that every project he undertook was not just about construction, but also a contribution to the community and sustainable development. Tuan stood at a distance, quietly observing the modest dwelling where Tu Tien lived. The small cave, simple and furnished with a few worn-out items, filled him with a sense of sorrow. Here was a woman who once had a warm home, now forced to live alone in a harsh natural world, managing every meal and every night's sleep by herself. Although he had met her only a few times, her strength and resilience deeply impressed him. Moving slowly up the stone steps, he drew nearer and peered into the cave. Not finding Tien, perhaps she was out working, he bent down and placed an envelope of money into an old bamboo basket. He did not want her to know who left the money. He only hoped that it might ease her hardship even a little. After he left, Tu Tien returned. As soon as she stepped inside, she froze upon seeing the envelope in her basket. She picked it up and opened it, her eyes widening in surprise at the sizable amount, neatly enclosed. She sat down and thought for a long while. Who had left this money here? Who was silently helping her? But no matter who it was, she could not accept it. Since the day she left Tien's house, she had promised herself never to rely on anyone, no matter how difficult things might get. Without further thought, she rushed outside. In the distance, she saw a pickup truck rolling along the newly constructed road. Without hesitation, she ran after it, calling out, yet the truck continued on. She ran faster and faster, her breaths coming in quick gasps, her bare feet pounding on the rocky ground without feeling any pain. But no matter how hard she tried, she could not catch up. Finally, when the truck had faded from view, she had to stop, her eyes filled with disappointment. Clutching the envelope tightly, she slowly turned back. Sitting by the fire in her cave, she stared at the money once again. She could keep it and use it to buy food or clothing, but she could not do that. She tucked the envelope back into the basket, sighed deeply, and then stood up. She could not let these thoughts hold her back. Later, she went out to the garden to help a farmer pick vegetables and harvest potatoes. Her nimble hands quickly plucked each leaf, while her eyes remained focused on the work. No matter how harsh life became, she chose to labor for her living rather than accept pity.
Ngày cô về nhà chồng, cô cũng từng e thẹn bước qua bậc cửa này mang theo bao ước mơ về một mái ấm. Nhưng hôm nay cũng chính bậc cửa đó, cô phải rời đi trong tủi nhục, trong sự lạnh lùng của người chồng. Trong ánh mắt khinh bỉ của cả gia đình chồng, cô muốn phản kháng, muốn hồi chiến rằng anh ta còn chút tình nghĩa nào dành cho cô không. Nhưng rồi cô nhận ra điều đó chẳng còn quan trọng nữa. Cô chỉ là một món đồ bị vứt đi, bị thay thế bởi một người khác. Từ Tiên bước ra khỏi căn nhà đã từng là tổ ấm của mình, bước chân cô nặng nề như có ai đó trói chặt. Trời không mưa như lòng cô bão tố, những giọt nước mắt mặn chát lăn nhài trên má hòa vào nỗi đau đớn cùng của một người phụ nữ bị phản bội. Vô chẳng mang gì ngoài bộ quần áo cũ kỹ, trái tim vỡ nát. Bóng lưng cô nhỏ bé đơn độc giữa con đường làng quen thuộc, nhưng giờ đây lại xa lạ vô cùng. Cô không biết mình sẽ đi đâu, sẽ làm gì. Tất cả những gì cô từng có